program so we can stay on time. As I mentioned earlier on, we're very appreciative of our corporate sponsors. And one of our longest corporate sponsors has been Finish Line Horse Products. They've been advertising in the Horseman's Journal for over 20 years. They've been a corporate sponsor now for 10. So as Mr. Blanchard said, we want to keep them in front. So with that, I want to introduce the president of Finish Line, Mr. Steve Blanchard.
Thank you. Talk about a tough act to follow. I've known Mr. Lucas for almost 40 years, and I can say he's a classy act to follow, too. But thank you for that introduction, and thank you for bringing up the fact that we're the longest-running sponsor and longest-running advertiser for HBPA. And I would like to say that now that we have our head in front, we're not going to give up. We're going to continue to support HBPA, and Finish Line is going to be in front all the way to the finish line. So, for those of you that don't know Finish Line, I don't think there's too many here that don't, we're a primary manufacturer of supplements and topicals. Okay, we manufacture the products here in America, and it has always been the vision of our founder, John Howe, that we do this. Today, 95% of the products in the companion animal industry, dog, cat, horse, are not manufactured by the company whose name is on the label. But Finish Line manufactures everything here in America with the vast majority of the materials coming from the United States. We strive to make the best product we can and give you the best value we can. We own the land, the building, the equipment. We develop our own formulas. We have a full-time chemist with a well-equipped staff. Nick has over 40 years of formulating horse products for us, and every year he gets a new toy. He has a very well-equipped lab, and it gets better every year. So consequently, Finish Line guarantees our products all the way to the end user. If you're a trainer and you buy a Finish Line product anywhere, and you're not completely satisfied for any reason, your horse won't eat it, or you don't think it did for you what you wanted, you can always call Finish Line. And two things will happen. A human being will answer the phone that speaks English, and we'll write you a check for whatever it is you paid for it. And I'll be honest, we don't get too many calls because we do a lot of research. But that's the way we feel about our products, okay? Now, how many trainers in the room? Okay, how many of them using Finish Line? Same number. You know, John always had a vision to create a product line that people would use more than one product. He used to tell me all the time, Steve, he grew up around racetracks. He is a fourth-generation horseman. His father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather were all horse trainers. And he said he saw that companies had one product, maybe two, but almost every company that had a product in the backside of the racetrack, they had one product. He said, one day I want Finish Line to have multiple products in everybody's barn. And I have to tell you, as I walk barns over the years, I've been to 104 racetracks, and over the years I've seen the numbers grow to now we go into a barn and I'll see a trainer that has 4, 5, 6, 7 different Finish Line products in there. And that was John's vision, and it's become true. Today, Finish Line is the largest manufacturer of poultice in America, probably the world, and we have a line of products that stretches now to 45 different products, about 150 SKUs, and the same guarantee goes for all of them, no matter where you buy them. So one of the things that we've noticed is that if we develop a product, and it takes us a long time to do it, it helps to have someone else check our work. We do a lot of research, and we do a lot of fabrication in the laboratory, but in the field is where the rubber meets the road. And over the years, we've had very helpful trainers and veterinarians and farriers that have helped us with input. But one man stands out among all of them, and he's sitting to my left, Dr. Mark Phillips. Now, we met under, looking back from today, somewhat comical circumstances, but he ended up becoming a consulting veterinarian for Finish Line. We don't pay him, and he's not a member of the company, but he took it upon himself to start doing research on products for us. And we found his help absolutely monumental. He's been very knowledgeable, very confident, and very straightforward. If something didn't work, he was not shy about telling us. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Mark Phillips.
Thank you, Steve. About 30 years ago or so, I was at the racetrack, and I was going to one of my clients' barns, and there was a finish line representative there trying to get the trainer to buy iron power. And I said, don't bother. That stuff's all a bunch of crap. And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, look, I have my own hospital. I have my own laboratory. My wife has 40 horses. I've tried Red Cell, Red Glow, Lixotinic, Vitonic. None of them actually increase the hemoglobin or the red cells. And he goes, well, that's not fair. You haven't tried ours. And I said, fair enough. He said, how many horses do you want to test? And I said, 12. We got 12 horses in our barn that could not keep their blood counts up without me going back and giving them injections or jugs just every week. So the 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, these cases of stuff came in. So I went back and I told my lab tech, I said, it's 10 o'clock Friday morning. I said, I want you to draw bloods every 10 o'clock, every Friday, and keep track of them, and told the grooms, feed this stuff as directed every day. 6 or 8 weeks went by, and my lab tech says, Doc, have you been watching these results? And I said, hell no, I haven't got time for that. And she goes, yeah, you might want to. And I started looking at them, and their red counts were coming up, and they weren't getting any shots each week. And they continued to rise for 120 days, and they plateaued off. I never heard from the company. A year later, the same rep was back at the racetrack, and I said, by the way, I owe you an apology. He says, what's that? And I said, well, yours is the first product I ever tested that actually worked. And he says, have you got the data? And I said, yes, we do. He said, can I have a copy of it? And I said, sure. This guy calls me up and says, Doc, he says, can we use that data? And I said, sure, you paid for it. Blood test doesn't cost me hardly anything. So they did. And a few days later, he calls up and says, do you want to test another product for us? And I said, okay. And a couple of months went by, and he goes, well, what do you think? And I said, stuff's a bunch of crap. Doesn't work. And the president, John, says, okay, that project's canceled. Is there anything we can do for you? And I said, well, I'm having a problem here in Florida with liver toxicities because our pasture fields have poisonous plants just all over them. And I'm losing 1 or 2 horses every month due to liver toxicities, besides what's happening at the racetrack. And back in those days, we had real loose rules. So they started working with formulas, and his chemist, Nick, would send stuff down. I'd try it for a while, and I'd say, well, they're improving, but it's not good enough. They went through 4 or 5 formulas, and finally they came out with a product called Liver Essentials, and from that point on until I retired, I never lost a horse due to liver toxicity. 2-3 years ago, they had a horse in New York that had a liver toxicity that was so high at 357, I think it was, that the liver guru from Kentucky went out and ultrasounded the liver, biopsied the liver, and said, there's nothing we can do, he's going to die. So one of the reps was there, and he said, well, why don't you try our stuff, just to see what happens. In one month, the liver enzymes were back down to normal at 27. A month after that, the horse won a stakes race. So, that's one thing that really encouraged me. Here's a company that wants to make sure a product works, and they'll keep trying until it does. Well, I was reading Scott McClure. I don't know if you all know him, but he set up the original program for omeprazole. And Finish Line had him do the same protocol for U7. And he wrote a paper on it showing that omeprazole and U7 were equal in preventing ulcers. And I read this and I wondered if you could use it to treat ulcers. So I called up Steve and I said, I'd like to do this experiment. I said, do you mind? He said, no. So I had another 10 or 12 horses. 3 or 4 of them were still on omeprazole, had been on for 2 or 3 months, and they still had ulcers. I had my own gastroscope and put them on it and gastroscoped them each week. At the end of 6 weeks, ulcers were 95% healed. At the end of 2 months, they were 100% healed. So, long story short, I did over 1,200 gastroscopes, and I put them on double the dose of U7 for 30 days, and the regular dose then for an additional 30 days, and then I stopped. 70% of those horses never came back with ulcers. The other 30% did, and put them on the U7 for a lifetime. Now, all of my clients could pay $90 every 2 months to prevent the ulcers. Not all of my clients could afford omeprazole at any rate. You know, $180 a day versus $90 for 2 months. So it was one of the things we did different. So they wanted to bring out this performance builder. It's a product that they're got back on the shelves and you can have free samples. Take whatever you want, they don't care. But the interesting thing was, one needed to make sure it worked. So we set up a double-blind study on weanlings. Now, I didn't know which weanlings were getting it and which were getting the placebo. Steve didn't know. The chemist didn't know. The owner didn't know. It was a 3-month study. After 1 month, the owner came out and said, that one's on it, that one's on it, that one's on it, that one's on it. When we broke the code, he was exactly correct. So this is a product that, with a double-blind study, again, so I always kept emphasizing to Finish Line and to Steve and the other people that science is what counts. Anybody can make a product to sell and have good advertising, but it's the science that counts to make sure that it does work. Well, then we started trying it on older horses, and we found that older horses, within about 2-3 weeks, you could start to see them develop more muscle. Race horses started to get stronger, more stamina. And one of the things that I like is when you put it on your yearlings, you know, for a couple of months before the yearling sales, they look better, you make more money. That's just one thing about it. So I really think it's a great product. The newest product that we brought out, they brought out this last year is I had done a paper on immune system and how anytime you ship a horse for more than 2 hours, their immune system drops. And that's why you get shipping fever. And so we talked to the chemist, came up with the formula, and so we put it on 20 horses, and half of them were on a placebo. We drew bloods, ran for immune-mediated cells in the horses that were not on the product, and we shipped the horses, by the way, from Florida to Tennessee. So when they got to Tennessee, 3 of the horses that weren't on it were already sick with shipping fever, but their immune cells on all of those horses had dropped drastically, whereas the horses that were on the immune supplement had increased. So the CD4, the CD8 cells had increased. And since then, we had about, 1,200 horses on the product last year shipping from Florida to New York, and none of them got shipping fever. So, this is one of the things that we find very interesting. The other thing that we measured in that study was a thing called the FOX3 cells. Now, FOX3 cells are the ones that when they raise up, you get immune-mediated diseases like HEAVs, okay? It's chronic sickness, chronic skin results. Well, this same product dropped the FOX3 cells. So we're looking for cases like moon blindness right when it starts. Maybe we can stop it. We haven't got enough cases to but we'll keep trying to find enough cases to let you know. Maybe next year we'll have enough. But anyway, it does seem to work on some of the immune-mediated diseases, but it definitely works on the shipping fever. And that's all I have, except I can go on for a couple of more hours on other things, but I won't. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And as Doc said, we have samples on the back table. Come by if you haven't gotten any already, or if you want another one, come on by and get them. Also, my cards are on the table. I'm president for Finish Line, and if you call us, again, a human being will answer the phone. Call us anytime with any questions, comments, or if you'd like to try something. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate that explanation of the product and really, really very grateful for the sponsorship. So thank you, Steve. So we're going to have a break right now. Hopefully we'll get everybody hustled back in here. So there will be a break thanks to Charlestown HBPA. And our plan is to bring up the next presentation at 3:15. So please be back and ready to go at 3:15. Thank you.